And joining us now for more is Josh Hasten. He's the spokesperson for the Gush Etzion Regional Council in the West Bank and also a correspondent for JNS News. Josh, thanks for joining us. Just briefly, summarize the concerns of your colleagues in the settlement issue. Why aren't they jumping at this opportunity?
Well, the main concerns, Calev, are number one, the establishment of a Palestinian state, as your previous guest said, would be an existential threat to the state of Israel. That's absolutely unacceptable. At the same time, we are nervous about these so-called cluster communities, the 15 or so communities, and their isolation, and what that would mean from a security perspective for all of those residents living in those communities. Will they be uninhabitable as a result of very dangerous roads, very dangerous potential infiltrations into those communities? Our main concern here is the security of all the residents of the state of Israel, and that's why we are against those aspects of the plan which would leave Israelis vulnerable.
Now, do you share the approach of the settlement leaders, including some fairly harsh comments about President Trump by at least one of them?
Well, President Trump, of course, is a great friend of the state of Israel. He's proven himself time and time again, whether it's the annexation of the Golan, whether it's the backing away from the Iranian deal. Trump is definitely a friend, and obviously, I'm going to side with President Rivlin on this. There are a lot of heated opinions here. I think we have to take it down a notch. We have to recognize what the president has done for us up until this point.
Right, but at a certain point, Prime Minister Netanyahu is asking for backing of this approach from the settlement movement. I mean, he needs that politically. Should the settlement movement take what could be a gamble by doing so?
Yeah, well, I think that there are certain aspects of the plan that we should accept, namely applying sovereignty in Judea and Samaria. But that being said, I still think we have to reject wholeheartedly any attempt to establish another state west of the Jordan River, which would have a tremendous impact not only on the residents of Judea and Samaria, but the residents of the greater Tel Aviv area and those living down below, where 75% of the population lives. That's really what this is about. If those hilltops become part of the arsenal used by whether it's the PA, whether it's the Hamas, or any other terror organizations, we have a serious problem here. And we learned that from the Gaza pullout back in 2005. We cannot have anything resembling that. And that's really the main concern here, is that we will have something close to the Gaza pullout, which would endanger basically all of the residents of our country.
But, Josh, realistically, that prospect is well far off, especially as the Palestinians refuse to even engage with this plan. But it's quite possible the settlement movement might have to make some smaller compromises along the way to get annexation. For example, a partial freeze of some building, maybe evacuation of some settlement outposts, not settlements. Is that a compromise the settlement movement should at least consider in return for getting annexation of most of the existing settlements?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say flat out, we're not calling this annexation. We're talking about the application of sovereignty. You can't annex something that's already yours. But again, we're already seeing new aspects of the plan being revealed to us in recent days. We're talking about building freezes within those cluster communities. We're talking about the roads becoming ever more dangerous. I mean, we're already in a situation where we have daily rock attacks. We don't want it to go in that direction. So I don't think we're willing to concede on those specific points which would lead to endangering our residents, because that's really what it's all about.
Well, what about the argument, and I think the Prime Minister has alluded to it, there could be a change of government in the United States in November, and perhaps Israel should just move ahead at this stage and take what it can get, some kind of limited annexation while it can.
So we're not really believing in that philosophy right now, because as you can see, I mean, things from day to day in the United States, whether it's the coronavirus, whether it's the riots taking place there, things are not very stable right now, and we don't really think the focus is on that. We can't really play the game, what might be 6 months or 5 months down the road when the U.S. elections take place. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. But in the meantime, we have to stand on our principles, and namely the security and the well-being of the residents of all of our communities. So that is our focus now, and we're not going to play what if at this point, because it's really way too early to play that game.
Right. I don't know, looking towards November, if it's way too early, Josh. But as you see, we'll have to see what develops over the summer. Josh Hasten, thanks for joining us.